and welcome to Pain and Suffering. What else would I call this?
Before the reboot came to piss off fans, the main target of hate was this game, although I know of at least 2 people who genuinely enjoy it. The game was surprisingly in development during Devil May Cry 1, though as a different game. As such, Kamiya wasn't involved, and he was pretty shocked by it. Sadly, I don't know what the game was meant to be. It was only because of the popularity of the first game that this one became DMC 2. This time, development was done by Capcom Production Studio 1 and Hideki Itsuno, the same people behind Capcom vs SNK 2. They had the goal of making the game bigger than before. Oh, they succeeded, just not in a good way, as I will shortly get to. Rather than bring Trish back as a playable character from the starting gate, due to complaints from the first game, they made an entirely different character, Lucia. The game was not well received, though looking at the scores, they are much higher than I thought. To be fair, the game isn't broken. Mostly. It's just poorly designed with mechanics that make most battles easy as hell. Hell, some people praise the story. The hollow as hell story in a game that lacks atmosphere and only picks up right at the final moments, and I know this sounds familiar, and it should, because Lucia's story is just a rehash of Trish's. There are differences, but as I'll get into, they don't take full advantage to tell something more interesting. They had 2 discs to work with as well, so it's not like they lack the power to do it.
At any rate, you'd think an HD upgrade would be good, but no, it's still the same gameplay and everything, just with slightly prettier graphics. So let's dive into Devil May Cry 2 from the HD Collection. And you'll notice that I no longer have a Devil May Cry shirt, a Devil May Cry figure, or any of the games up here. That's because, well, let me just put it this way. They half-assed this game, I'm half-assing this review.
As you can tell, the presentation outside of cutscenes is pretty bad. Levels are needlessly large, leaving the camera to zoom away or to the side, and make tracking yourself and enemies a needless pain in the ass, even with the lock-on. More on that later though. Not helping with sight problems is that some areas are just filled with darkness at times. Combined with a far view, I can't see a damn thing. And you'd think you could at least turn the camera around to get a better view. It makes some sense given the wide areas, but sadly you can't. The color from areas barring orbs always feels extremely drained, and as you can imagine, swimming levels make this worse. And this is where the lock-on becomes a pain in the ass. With the camera barely able to turn, you may not even be able to see your foes, and its priorities are kinda screwed up. It's more apparent in this moth boss you fight as both characters, where you need to kill the moth boss to stop the larva from spawning. Now, you can't shoot it from the ground due to the giant worms trying to eat you, so you are constantly forced to jump into the air and pray you lock on to the boss. And because aerial attacks are nearly impossible to pull off due to range and lack of such moves aside from double triggering, you are likely to be using firearms. Hell, you might always use firearms since you can upgrade their damage output, and some bosses are better off staying far away just so you can see and dodge. In cases like the Moth and these dumbass masked dudes, you don't even have a choice. You can turn off locking on using the right trigger, but you must hold it. That's really only helpful to do stuff like puzzles in case an enemy is being an ass. Enemies also don't seem to give any sound cues either, so as you might expect, dodging attacks becomes harder or you may end up hitting foes off screen. There are visual cues at least, but again, camera. Then and you can't really cancel out of combos, making dodging more of a pain in the ass if all you do is mash the attack button. Even then, combos are limited. Rather than time inputs, it seems more concerned if you enter directions during attacks. It was something I could not quite figure out and never bothered to as my usual style worked. I never even bothered running on walls, which, while admittedly cool, due to the big open areas, I never saw a point to use it. In fact, the enemies are already dumb as bricks. Some will linger and let their allies die quickly, a lot are vulnerable to being juggled purely from shots, and others are hilariously easy, like the demon tanks just needing to be hit from close range. Not even demonic tentacles to defend themselves. The hardest thing about any of these enemies are the problems you need to overcome. Other bosses are hardly challenging either. This bull boss was also hilariously easy as he kept repeating the same damn move while I was far away. I did it so many times all I had to do was just shoot and I won. On top of that, Dante's double trigger is so broken as it automatically turns his guns into SMGs, firing off rapid blasts that just wreck enemies. They are also kinda needed to make sure fights end faster. Actually, Dante is an even more powerful form once his health is in the red, creating the Majin trigger that just wrecks everything. The final boss didn't even last 2 seconds.
Also, if I'm not missing anything, Majin means demon anyway, so it's pretty much the same as the devil trigger, so why even call it this?
There's a simple explanation for that.
You no longer need to buy any abilities, as everything is given off the bat. You just use red orbs to upgrade health, your devil trigger meter, and your weapons. Given that all these moves are pretty lackluster and all the other problems I just listed, I really did not give a crap about this game. At least I can rest assured that I'm not wasting cash. I am, however, kind of wasting finding swords because they are all the goddamn same minus range and pure power. It really doesn't matter. Guns are a bit different at least, though the most important factors are range and speed. There is surprisingly some customization for the Devil Trigger, but I found it hardly matters. Use of elements never felt important to me save for the giant masked boss fight. It's an overall weak system, but necessary to solve certain puzzles or get past levels quickly. Speaking of puzzles, here's your strategy for puzzles. Hit the damn thing fast enough and that's mostly it. Or maybe crushing rock faces. Yeah, nothing makes sense. So no more Castlevania level of backtracking. Also, your map frigging sucks. How am I supposed to tell where I am? Blue orbs and secret rooms are still a thing, but for Dante, some of these rooms just grant a red orb. Now in the previous game, secret rooms were already a pain in the ass to find, but they posed unique, if frustrating, challenges that felt satisfying to pull off. Sometimes. These secret rooms are just filled with spawning foes and that's it. Fight and win against already easy enemies and a bad camera. That's really not much of a challenge. Ranks for each mission are easier to understand compared to the first, and your overall rank is based on damage obtained, red orbs collected, time to finish the mission, use of items, and now style. The problem is that because of how style works in this game and how fragile enemies are, you're unlikely to get S ranks through attacking alone. Dodging attacks can help, but again, camera problems. So expect a crappy style and damage rank that left me with, well, mostly B and C ranks at best. There are more difficulties with other bonuses like costumes and even Trish as a playable character. It is even the first game to feature Bloody Palace mode, which is basically the same as the secret rooms in this game with the same camera problems. At least being this game does unlock a lot of stuff. Shame I don't want to keep playing. If you wish to know which path I found more fun, it's not an easy question. Dante's campaign is 18 missions and broken. Lucia has only 13 missions, slightly less broken, and horrible underwater levels. You know, I think I just answered my own question. Just play DMC 3. Done.
Or as much as I hate to say it, the DMC reboot. Ugh, I feel dirty for saying that.
And I'm not even going to bother with a spoiler section for this story due to how empty it is. But let's at least give a basic summary. In the future, about 10 or 20 years after the first game, Dante helps Lucia work with her mom to stop the main villain, Arius, from becoming an immortal being and from opening a portal to the demon world. There's really nothing else to Dante's story, and about 90% of his charm is gone. He just ends up being boring save for the occasional good line. But even then, Dante is not well known for simple one-liners. It's how he talked to foes, that back and forth dynamic. It's another reason why the succubus scene didn't work. The two beings talking needed that kind of chemistry, reactions to the lines, feeding off of each other. Who talks to Dante in this game? Really, only Arius. Maybe a bit of Lucia with pure conversations, and aside from that, nothing. Honestly, Lucia had a more interesting backstory, despite it being a ripoff of Trish. However, Lucia had the more interesting angle of having human contact and struggling with that. Unfortunately, she suffers the exact same fate as Dante, as there is a lack of story. But I will admit, Dante using a double-sided coin with heads on it was pretty clever, and plays a role in Shin Megami Tensei Nocturne when we eventually get to it. That'll take 5 years? One of the narrative's main problems don't just lie with the bosses, but the levels themselves and how they connect. There's plenty of room to have character dialogue and such, but none of it is taken advantage of. As for the main villain, don't expect anything interesting with him, although I will admit him just drinking in the middle of a boss fight is pretty amusing. But sorry dude, you ain't no Dracula. Never even checked that coin either that Dante switched out, so he ain't that smart. Then there's the other final boss, which I don't even know what this thing is supposed to be. No explanation is given, so in a way, it kinda fits in with the rest of the nonsense bosses that come from nowhere. I know this episode is light and is me mostly just pointing out problems and a lack of jokes, and that's all I can do. This is otherwise the worst in the Devil May Cry series. I am lacking anything in the story to pick apart. This game is otherwise lifeless and pisses me off. The one good thing I can say is that this game thankfully did not kill the Devil May Cry series. Hell, the developers took neat ideas such as Bloody Palace and enhanced them in future Devil May Cry games. This game was just a poor attempt to try and cash in on Devil May Cry's popularity, even leaving out Kamiya, and is one game many fans want to forget, including me. Especially the stupid underwater levels. Seriously, this boss is just... Why would you do this?
But overall, how does the game actually hold up? It sucks. The only reason I'm not slamming the disc against the wall or anything is because Devil May Cry 3 is on there.
It commits one of the worst sins a game can ever do. Being lifeless. This game manages to take away the charm of the original, has hollow story and characters, and worsens the gameplay formula with a horrible camera, laughable bosses, and really no style. Not even the occasional good line is saved due to lackluster performances. It is truly deserving of hatred from Devil May Cry fans. I suppose one good thing we did get was Dante appearing in Shin Megami Tensei Nocturne. That's about as much praise as I can give for this shovelware.
I'm the smartest moron, and I really got nothing to say. I'm just gonna play something fun because I need that, and I suggest you do the same as well. Had enough of this negativity crap with 2017 already.